Coming into the 2026 NBA season, the LA Clippers were supposed to finish at the top of the Western Conference. They were projected to win around 50 games after losing in round one to the Denver Nuggets last year. And there have been some disappointing teams to kickstart off this NBA season, but I think the LA Clippers have been one of the more disappointing teams overall. Like I said, this is a team that took Denver to game number 7. We thought that they were maybe the third best team in the Western Conference. They just drew an unlucky seeding in the West playoff structure last year. They would go on to trade away Norman Powell for John Collins in the offseason, bring in veteran Brook Lopez and Chris Paul in free agency, and then when Bradley Beal got waived and bought out by the Phoenix Suns, they picked him up to basically replace Norman Powell, and nothing is going to plan right now. This is a nightmare coming true for the LA Clippers, because the one thing that you could look at the Clippers and their potential downfall or them not reaching expectations in the 2026 season had to be their age. This is the oldest overall roster in the NBA, the second oldest starting lineup behind the Golden State Warriors, and this Clippers team, if you're watching them, they look old. They look old on offense, definitely look old in transition on both ends of the floor, both in transition offense and definitely in transition defense. This is a team that was one of the better defensive units last year. If you remember, Kawhi Leonard was out for most of the first half of the 2025 NBA season, but the Clippers finished third in the NBA in defensive rating in 2025. Currently 25th in defensive rating right now. That's around the same range as teams like the Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Wizards, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Sacramento Kings, Memphis Grizzlies. The Utah Jazz have a better overall defense right now than the LA Clippers. The Clippers are off to a 3-5 start. They ended up losing in a blowout game to the Utah Jazz to start off the season. That one really caught my eye because it's opening night. You know, you're still trying to get a feel for your new team, but getting embarrassed by the Utah Jazz, who had the lowest win total projection entering this season since the 2015 Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah, the trust the process 76ers, and they lost by 21. They would go on to beat the Phoenix Suns, who didn't have Jalen Green or Dylan Brooks in that game. They would go on to beat the Portland Trailblazers. That was a very impressive win. Their defense looked good in that game. So then hopefully we could build up some momentum after maybe a slowish start. No, they have the worst offensive performance of a team all year. They scored 79 points against the Golden State Warriors. Yes, 79 points in the year 2025, where offense is at an all-time high. They can't close out a game against the Miami Heat. They get blown out by the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are nowhere near full strength on their end, and then they would lose to the Phoenix Suns. Now, in their loss to the Phoenix Suns, Kawhi Leonard and James Harden were out, but if you're going to be a team that can really compete for a title, like the OKC Thunder are, who are winning games without Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, you should be able to beat the Phoenix Suns, or at least make this game a little bit more competitive without Kawhi Leonard and without James Harden, because you have Bradley Beal, who you thought could replace Norman Powell, because last year, Norman Powell would have stepped up in a game like this. He would have been somebody you could rely on to get close to 30 points a night. Bradley Beal had 5 points and shot 2 of 14 from the field against his former team, and he was getting booed whenever he touched the ball. John Collins went 5 of 11, and he's asked to do way too much in his specific role right now, and he's making over $20 million a year. Brook Lopez looks very old out there. I actually enjoyed and thought Yannick Niederhauser looked a little bit better out there than Brook Lopez, who they gave a 2-year contract to in the offseason. Chris Paul looks very old himself as well. It makes sense. He's 40 years old. He was basically just asked in San Antonio to get Wemby the ball in the high post or on the perimeter and be a veteran point guard in that locker room. He's not going to save your season if you're the LA Clippers at this point in his career. They're getting way too much variance out of somebody like a Bogdan Bogdanovic this year. Nicholas Batum has basically given them nothing offensively this year, who's also 37 years old and is shooting 26% on threes. He's shooting 24% overall from the field. Chris Paul, same thing, 26% from three, 24% from the field. Bogdan Bogdanovic, 28% from the field, 23% from three. And Bradley Beal is shooting 35% from the field and 33% from three. Those collective four are playing meaningful minutes, and that was supposed to give the Clippers somewhat of a solid bench going forward. And their big three has stepped up this year. Like, Kawhi has looked fine. He still looks like a top 20 player in the league. James Harden still looks like a great point guard in this league. And Ivica Zubac looks like he's still a great two-way center. But the West got better, and the one thing they don't have on their side, internal development. These guys are not going to be progressing and reaching new heights in their career, most likely in the 2026 season, given they've already peaked in their careers. If you look at a team like the Portland Trailblazers, they have young guys continuing to get better day by day in the Western Conference. You have a team like the San Antonio Spurs, who are reaching new heights this year with Victor Wembanyama. The Rockets are led by Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün, and most of the Denver Nuggets are playing in their primes right now. These are teams that the LA Clippers would have to get through in the Western Conference, and that's not even with me mentioning the LA Lakers, who are looking like the way better Los Angeles Angeles team right now, when probably people had the Clippers as the better LA team going into the year, and the OKC Thunder just look like they're in a completely different stratosphere right now than the LA Clippers, and they barely beat the New Orleans Pelicans as well, who got off to a very slow start this year. They had to win by a Kawhi Leonard 34-point performance, and they won by 2 in that one. And I'm seeing the Clippers fan base kind of go at Ty Lue right now, and they may want a different head coach. Ty Lue has been there since 2021, the year after they blew the 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets in the bubble, and they made it to the conference finals in 2021, but they didn't make the playoffs in 2022. 3 eventual round 1 exits. Now, their most encouraging round 1 exit is the most recent one against the Denver Nuggets. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I thought they were the 3rd best Western Conference team last year, but unfortunately for them, the way that the seeding drew, they had to play the 2nd best West team in round 1 and would have had to play the best Western Conference team in round number 2. But right now, this team is barely playing with any pace. They're old. They look old out there, and I don't know where they're going to get better right now, unless they maybe hit the trade market. And Kawhi Leonard is already dealing with injury management. You never know with him as well, and that's something that is so scary, given that he really hasn't been healthy in the playoffs outside of the 2025 season. We know that he only played 37 games last year, and you're just kind of crossing your fingers that he makes it throughout the season and the playoffs healthy for you right now. And we also know this is a 2-year window and maybe a 1-year window with the LA Clippers. Basically, everybody's a free agent after the 2027 season, outside of Ivica Zubac, who is maybe their most important long-term piece right now given his age, but all these guys are entering the last year or 2 of their contracts. And I'm seeing a lot of Clippers fans say they want to already waive Bradley Beal, who does not look like the same player Norman Powell did for them last year, and they're definitely missing Norman Powell right now. Maybe they're wishing they extended Norman Powell. They gave him a 2-year deal that was going to go a little bit deeper into the luxury tax, but you can get more consistent secondary scoring than you are right now out of Bradley Beal. And I'll admit it, I liked the Bradley Beal pickup in the offseason. Did I like Bradley Beal for $50 million on the Suns? No, I did not. But Bradley Beal making $5 million, I thought was a bargain, but he is not a good defensive player at this point of his career, and if he's not going to be a good isolation scorer, downhill attacker, or just an overall playmaker, where's his value right now? Because he has been abysmal to start off the year. Now, he's been hurt. It's a new environment. I expect Bradley Beal to get better. I don't think he's going to be averaging 7 points on 35% shooting throughout the season, but you have to be a little disappointed right now, given that Bradley Beal is 32 years old, and he's got some decently big shoes to fill since you traded away Norman Powell for John Collins, who has been a solid frontcourt guy for you. I just feel like Ty Lue really isn't getting the most out of his team right now. There have been some weird rotation adjustments. I don't really think he's getting the most out of his guys right now, and I think he got out-coached by Jordan Ott. If the LA Clippers are a good team, I truly believe they should have beat the Phoenix Suns, even with Devin Booker and Jalen Green playing, on the road. I need you to show me that you are a top team in the Western Conference, because right now, I don't think you're even in the same tier as the Thunder, anything close to that. You're not in the same tier as Denver, maybe not even the Rockets or the LA Lakers either, maybe not even the Golden State Warriors. Who knows at the end of the day, because you scored 79 points against Golden State in your 4th game of the season, in a game in which Kawhi Leonard played and James Harden as well. And the schedule doesn't get much easier for the LA Clippers as well. They have a rematch against the Suns on Saturday. Hopefully Kawhi and James Harden both play in that game, but they got to play Atlanta, Denver, Dallas, Boston, Philadelphia, Orlando, Cleveland, LA are coming up on the schedule as well. But this team is the 2nd slowest team in terms of pace in the NBA. They're bottom 10 in free throw rate right now. They are settling for jumpers out there if you watch them. They're turning the ball over more than anybody in the NBA right now, and they're not really in the top of any major statistic overall as a team. So where does this team get better? Is it Bradley Beal finding a new role in Los Angeles and really adapting to Ty Lue's system, which is very different from Mike Budenholzer's of last year? And I'm always going to be a little bit more dramatic when you're in the Western Conference as well, just because of how loaded this is. If you get off to a slow start like the Orlando Magic or the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference, you have plenty of time to put it together. But right now, the LA Clippers at a 3-5 record are already 4.5 games back of the 1 seed. I believe that's going to eventually grow over time, and they just haven't really showed me anything this year. I will say it was an impressive win against the Portland Trail Blazers a week ago, but when is their statement win going to happen? When do we think that this team will be able to be a true title contender? Because their luxury tax bill, their expectations are treating them like some team that can maybe push for a title or some type of conference finals appearance this year. And I went through this whole video without even mentioning the Kawhi Leonard aspiration scandal that kind of gave bad vibes in Los Angeles leading up to the year. We have no idea what's going to happen with that throughout the season. I'm going to assume, since nothing has really happened so far, it's going to be a slap on the wrist punishment, if there's even going to be one at the end of the day, unless Pablo Torre has something to say about it and maybe he finds some new evidence. We know the LA Clippers are hosting the All-Star game, so Adam Silver was really pushing for anything to come out till after the All-Star game. Like, frankly, watch this possession from the LA Clippers last night. I couldn't believe my eyes what I saw veteran Brook Lopez do on this team. It's terrible floor spacing, and there was just no chemistry, no continuity, no connection between anyone on this team, and it felt like at one point they just kind of gave up against the Phoenix Suns, who are not even like that great of a team. Yes, the Phoenix Suns play hard. So yeah, where did the Clippers end up going from here? Maybe they turn it around internally. You can let me know if you think that down below. Maybe they're a team that does enter the trade market at some point this year. Brook Lopez, maybe as washed as he could look, he's making $8.7 million. Bogdan Bogdanovic making $16 million. Nick Batum at $5.6 million. Maybe they try to package one of those guys in a trade. We saw the Milwaukee Bucks do something similar last year with maybe Chris Middleton's type contract. That could be Bogdan Bogdanovic. Maybe they trade away a pick swap and Yannick Niederhauser, what the Bucks did last year with AJ Johnson, because the LA Clippers do not have much draft capital going forward. Right now, the Thunder basically have their pick swap. They do have their pick swap, so the Clippers are not going to get a top pick in the draft, even if they fall out. So they have no incentive to not make the playoffs this year or be competitive whatsoever. 2027, they don't own direction of their first round pick. It's another swap with OKC. 2028, Philly owns it from the James Harden trade. 2029, Philly can swap it in the James Harden trade. So their next first round pick that they own directly is 2030, and who knows if they're going to get punished from the aspiration investigation right now, because this is a team that doesn't own a lot of draft capital, so you may be a little bit worried that they can kind of dig into that in the 2030s. But either way, are you willing to trade away an unprotected 2031 first round pick when your best players are 34 in Kawhi, 36 in James Harden? You have Brook Lopez, Nick Batum, Bradley Beal in kind of the twilight years of their careers. Maybe I will give credit to Derrick Jones Jr., who I haven't really mentioned a ton in this video. I think he's been a bright spot for the Clippers this year. I think his jumper has looked better. His three-point shot looks great. He actually cares defensively in transition. This is a piece they definitely cannot move on from this year. And this is a really good pickup when they eventually let Paul George walk to Philly in the 2024 offseason. So I think there's a lot of external and internal factors that are going to really come into play for the LA Clippers this season. And I think they should definitely play Cam Christie more. Cam Christie probably looked the best in his career against the Phoenix Suns when they lost by 13 last night. He looked way better and more effective out there than guys like Nicholas Batum, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who we talked about. He ended up finishing that game with 17 points, knocked down 2 threes, 5 of 7 from the field, made some nice passes as well, and was definitely the best player on the LA Clippers in that game, and probably should have ended up playing more than the 25 minutes he got. Maybe he should have even started for this team over Bradley Beal. And I don't know if Ty Lue is going to be on the hot seat either. I don't think he's like fully lost this locker room yet. I think they would have to be like 5 or so games under 500 later in the year for that to happen, because now that would be an in-season change. Would they be better off getting a younger, more hungry head coach than somebody that kind of is more established in the league like Ty Lue, but they just need a breath of fresh air? It needs to go in a different direction. It feels like in the fourth quarter, they give up a little bit too early as well with some of his lineup rotations. They also have Jeff Van Gundy as an assistant. Now, he hasn't been a head coach in a while, but would they make some type of change there? Maybe there'd be some type of internal change as well with play calling. I actually don't hate that idea, because I feel like Jeff Van Gundy will say it like it is, and he's not going to cut corners, and he would actually care a little bit more than Ty Lue would. But I also feel like John Collins needs to play more for this team, and he should definitely start in this front court with the Ivica Zubac. Especially last night, there was no need for Nicholas Batum and John Collins to play only a 5-minute difference. John Collins should have played 30 minutes in that game. Batum did not need to play 18. He's not been good for the Clippers this season. So yeah, I'd like to see more Cam Christie. I'd like to see more Yannick Niederhauser. Maybe more minutes to Jordan Miller and Kobe Saunders. Why not? And I know we're only 8 games in. The Clippers could definitely go on a winning streak, and maybe it's going to be against these tough teams, and I'm going to treat them like a tier 1 or tier 2 team in the Western Conference. But starting off 3-5, looking completely night and day to what the top teams in the Western Conference look like, and their losses to maybe like a Phoenix, a Utah, or just the blowout loss against the Golden State Warriors makes me a little bit worried about the Clippers going forward. And you guys can let me know what you think. Do you think I'm being a little bit overreactionary to their start, or do you think you got to drop the Clippers down from where you initially thought they were going to be earlier in this year? Do you think they would explore a trade to be aggressive sooner rather than later? Do you think Bradley Beal is going to turn it around, or this is not going to be a good Norman Powell replacement whatsoever? Let me know what you guys think down below. Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.